Welcome back to my hot kitchen. I'm Wendy, and we're back with another awesome date night feast for you and your sweetie to chow down on the next date night at home. Tonight's feast features savory chicken roulades with chili and herb spaghetti and a braised endive salad on the side. It's a delightful Italian style feast. So let's get started by getting that chicken going first. Well, it's not actually chicken that we're going to be getting going. We're going to be starting the foundation of flavors by warming up a little butter and a little bit of olive oil, kind of work in equal amounts, about a tablespoon or so of each. Get those swirled around in the pan, get them melting together. You'll love the combination of butter and olive oil. It's just nice. Anyway, take about half an onion, drop it in there, and get the onions cooking over medium-low heat. Just want to see a nice little simmer going on there. Get them all coated, get them all loved up. Your main purpose right now is to soften up these onions and make sure that butter and olive oil are nice and infused with flavor. Okay, let's go back over here and then let's make that filling. So here's my chicken. I'm just going to set that off to the side. And I'm going to bring in my 4 anchovies, 2 cloves of garlic. I've already kind of chopped them down a little bit to ease this process along. And 2 tablespoons of capers. Now basically you just need to mash everything together. You can use the back of a spoon like you see me doing at the moment, or you can transition to a chef's knife, which I will show you in just a second as well. Whatever you do, you just want to work this into a nice little paste. Now, I prefer the chef's knife because it's one of my favorite tools to work with. And what I'm going to do is just kind of put my blade in there, put some pressure on it, and kind of draw it back towards me. And as I do this, the salt from the anchovies and the capers is going to help to break down that garlic. And it's just going to take a few minutes. If you like, you can also use a food processor. Just get it broken down, however you can. Now, you haven't seen me use any anchovies on Hot Kitchen yet. That's just because they're kind of a potent ingredient. Some people have a real aversion to them. But you know what? In this particular recipe, they're the bomb. They add so much richness, so much flavor, and in combination with the capers and the garlic, oh, friends, you cannot go wrong. Now, as far as the capers go, you'll find those in the pickle section, usually right around the olives. If you see any like specialty olives, anything fancy, looking kind of Italian-y, you'll probably find the capers right there. Anchovies are often found near the canned clams and the tuna and whatnot. So I'm just going to give this a couple more little passes. It's quite all right if it's a little chunky. It just needs to be able to fit in a roll of chicken. And I'm going to call that good. Clear off my cutting board so that I can start pounding out some chicken. And next up, the chicken breasts. So I have a couple of medium-sized chicken breasts. Go for small to medium size for this recipe because it's quite rich. And I'm just going to drop them out here on my cutting board. And then cover them with a sheet of plastic. Any sort of plastic wrap works. You want to give them a little space to stretch out. Especially this thick part right here. That's the part you're really going to stretch out the most. And just put that plastic wrap over. And then take something heavy, a meat mallet, I like a rolling pin, and just start pounding them. Your objective here is to make them just one equal thickness. Now you don't have to pound really hard, just let the weight of the tool do the work. There you go. I'm going to show you what they look like before and after. Cool. Let's work on this other one. Now, as an alternative to all this pounding, you could always buy thin cut chicken breasts, although they won't make quite as nice sized rolls. And they're a little more expensive. Once you're satisfied that you've got the chicken breasts out to about an equal length, or an equal width, I mean, just kind of want to cut them in half. You want to cut them in half the longest way possible. Now, that looks good right there. And that looks good right there. Okay, flip them over so that the smooth side is down. And then take your filling and just spread it out over the chicken breasts. You don't need to worry about salting and peppering them first because there's so much flavor in the garlic and anchovies and whatnot. Already a lot of seasoning going on. All right, so just kind of spread it around. And then roll them up. Now I'm going to roll them all up at once here. And then there's another thing we're going to put on the outside that's really just going to up the flavor like crazy. Okay. And the final touch is a piece of pancetta. Pancetta is a nice Italian style bacon. It's not all smoky flavored like American bacon, and it's very thin. Usually round like this too. One of the fun things about pancetta is that it's just rolled bacon, so you can actually pull it apart like that and kind of stretch it into a shape, which is very advantageous with something like this. Another great feature of pancetta is that it sticks to food really well, so it's a great idea for wrapping things. So just kind of, a little bit haphazardly wrap it around, and then take a toothpick and stab it through the roll so that it holds together while you cook it. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in an area with a nice Italian market in it, you could probably go find some really good pancetta there. If not, every grocery store I've ever been at has it in the fancy meat section at the deli. It's a little bit sticky to work with, but it's kind of fun. And another good meat that you could use on this would be prosciutto. Just a nice thin cut Italian style cured meat. Something to add a nice saltiness to it, a little bit of extra fat. Absolutely. All right, so we are working on our last one here. And I'm going to take a quick little hand washing break. Now let's come over here and play with our onions for a minute. Well, great, the onions have softened up a little bit. They've even browned a touch, and that's nice. This recipe is delicious when it's enhanced by a little bit of caramelized onion flavor. So I'm just going to clear out a little spot, and then I'm going to bring in my little involtinis, roulades, rolls, whatever you want to call them, depending on what language you're speaking. And we're just going to put them there in the middle. Give them a little chance to sear. What we're looking for now is for a nice color to develop and for that pancetta to brown a little bit. And while we're over here, we're going to go ahead and get the pasta going. Pretty straightforward, boiling water, a couple servings of spaghetti. I'm using thin spaghetti. Always seasoning my water with a nice amount of olive oil and a generous amount of salt so that it cooks right, tastes good. Well, it's looking and sounding like my pasta is done here. See if I can just grab one little noodle to test. There we go. Woo, hot noodle. Perfect. No more crunch, still some nice texture. Al dente. So it's time to drain it out. Of course, I like the colander in the sink approach. And I like to hit it with cool water to stop it from cooking a little bit. Just gonna give it a nice little shake off. The steam will help to evaporate the rest out, and then I'm actually just going to leave it here on the counter after treating it with a nice amount of olive oil. Nice generous amount here. And we'll just let that hang out off onto the side. In the meantime, let's take a look at these delicious chicken roulades. Oh yeah, you want to see a nice caramelization on them when you flip them over. It's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to develop that color. Oh yeah, oh, those are stunning. That one's a little awkward. There we go. I'm gonna give my onions a quick little fold around the outside too so that they're cooking evenly. See how they are developing a nice caramelized color. It's gonna add richness and depth like crazy, friends. So now let's move on to the next part of this process, which is a bit of a braise. I have about a 1/4 cup here of white wine. Just gonna pour it in, put a lid on it. Let it steam for about 20-25 minutes until it's all done. I'm just gonna start pre-warming a saute pan. That's gonna be for the braised endive salad. Move that thing out of the way. And then we're gonna come over here and make a little garlic bread. Now, nothing crazy, but I do have a technique that I always like to use for my garlic bread. So, of course, garlic, minced, a little bit of basil, fresh or dried is fine. And then a touch of salt, a little bit of pepper, and just a little bit of olive oil. And I do the olive oil mostly so that the butter spreads really nicely, but it also adds a nice little flavor, especially if you're using a nice rich extra virgin olive oil. So you just mix it together. I want a little bit more than that. Another thing that the olive oil does, it helps to stretch out the butter. And I guess it adds a little nutrition too. Yeah, so it's a win-win. There we go, a nice loose spread. Pretty straightforward here. I think you can handle this. Yes, spread the butter on the toast. Now, anytime you serve a good Italian style dish, you should always think about serving pasta. At least that's what my husband always, serving pasta. Wow, serving bread with pasta. That's what my husband always tells me is the right thing to do. His godmother was Italian and very traditional in how she served her food, and there was always bread whenever there was pasta involved. And so that's how it is in the hot kitchen. Pasta equals garlic bread equals love. All right, so the next thing to do is just kind of toast these off lightly. I favor the toasted outside, soft inside, so I'm going to put the butter sides together and slide them in my oven. In my toaster oven. And get them toasting. We'll just keep an eye on them and pull them out when they're all ready. And here we see the mise en place for the braised endive salad. This is a really nice, sophisticated way to do endive. We're going to start with a couple pieces of pancetta that have been chopped up a little bit. We're going to start with a low temperature. I'm going to add just a touch of olive oil, just enough to make it all happy. And I'm just going to get that going, get it stretched out a little bit. And to that we're going to add about 1/8 of an onion, so it's going to be 1 to 2 to 3 tablespoons of chopped onion. Really not a big difference between all that. Give it a little stir, give it some time to get coated. And then we're just going to bring it up to a nice little sizzle and soften up these onions. So while we wait for the onions and pancetta to do their thing, we're going to do a little orange segmenting. Now what I'm showing you is a moderately advanced technique, and there's of course less advanced ways to go about it, but I think it's a pretty cool thing to be able to segment a piece of citrus. So you start by slicing off the top and bottom so that you can see the fruit through it. Then you take the tip of your knife and you draw it down the side, following the curve of the fruit, trying to get down to it, trying to get down beneath the pith to find the fruit. Now, your first cut may or may not reveal fruit, and it might look a little funky, but you gotta have to start somewhere. On your next cut, try to line up the tip of your knife so that you're overlapping the pith that you left, and just keep working down the side. And you'll find that really, this looks pretty fancy, but it's not really that hard at all. Most important thing is to make sure that you've got the top and bottom flattened off so that it sits stable on your cutting board. Now the main reason for doing this is really showiness. You often see salads and entrees in restaurants that are garnished with some sort of segmented citrus fruit. They call it supremes often, just to make it sound extra fancy. And it's nice because the pith isn't involved, so the texture's better and it's a little bit sweeter. Then I like to flip it back over and just make sure that I've got the bottom. And I didn't, so I'm just going to go back over and trim it off. You can smell the aromas of the citrus as you do this. It's very nice. Now, the reason that we're putting this with the salad is because it complements the flavor of the endive very nicely. The endive is a little bit on the bitter side, and a little sweet citrus really helps it to come out of its shell. Now for the next step, put the citrus on its side so that you're looking at the segments, and just kind of slide the tip, the middle of your knife in next to the skin of each segment, and free yourself a little fruit. And you get this nice pith-free orange slice. It's very pleasant to eat. Now the other reason that we're going to do this is because we're going to squeeze out whatever's left of the orange into the endive as it's braising to enhance the flavor and really make it go together perfectly with these orange supremes. Now once you've done a couple, it goes really quickly. Go ahead and just do your whole orange, or do it until you can't do it anymore. Whatever happens first. You want at least 4 segments per plate. More is always better. Oranges have a way of brightening up everything. Okay, I'm down to my last 2 here. Last one's always the trickiest. There we go. And it's free. Well, all right, so hold on to that little pile of goodness because, like I said, we're going to need it. Let's go back over here and check on our onions and pancetta. And this is my cue to move on. You can let the onions get a little more done if you like, but they're also great right here. They have a nice texture to them. So take the endive, sprinkle it quickly with a little salt, and put it face down. Endive is a fun cousin of the chicory. You often find it in the greens, kind of in the specialty greens section. But it's really nice. It holds up to braising really well, and the flavor is just unique and distinctive and very sophisticated. So let's put a little pepper on this. And we're just going to let those sear for a moment and develop a little color on them. A little bit more olive oil in there. A little wiggle of the pan. Give those a couple minutes. So our little endive friends have been sizzling away happily for about 5 minutes here. Let's see what sort of colors developed. There we go. Doesn't that look nice? A little caramelization on there. Perfect. Okay, flip the little guys back over. And here is where the braised part comes in. So you want to grab all those orange guts, basically, orange guts, and just kind of squeeze in whatever juice you can. Any pulp that comes with it is fine. All good. You want to just extract as much flavor as possible. There we go. Also, add just a little spritz, a little splasharoo of cider vinegar, maybe an ounce or 2 of stock or water. Give it a little sizzle here, and then just cover it with a lid and let it braise for about 5 more minutes or until those endive are nice and tender. And let's take a look here at this delicious looking chicken. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Now we're only using a 1/4 cup of wine in here, so do keep an eye on it. Sometimes if it's a little bit drier or whatever, the wine might cook out. You might need to add a little more. But look at how beautiful those are. Oh! I'm just going to give a little stir here, pull those onions off the side of the pan. And then these little bad boys look done to me, so I'm just going to pull them off to the side, both to clear up my burner and to give them a little chance to cool down enough to handle. There we go. All right, and then I just need to bring in a pan because it's time to make the chili and herb spaghetti. Now this is ridiculously easy, ridiculously cheap, and oh so tasty. Start with a nice pour of olive oil. Don't skimp. And just get it warmed up. You want to warm it up till it's nice and shimmery. And then once you see that it's warmed up, you can go ahead and add your aromatics. I have a ½ teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon chili flake, and a ½ teaspoon of chopped thyme. I'm gonna go ahead and put those in there, and a ½ tablespoon of basil. And basically, I just want to let these 4 ingredients kind of stew in the oil until it's very aromatic and very rich smelling, which really, once it comes up to temperature, is maybe 2 minutes tops. Nice little sizzle going on. I can smell that basil frying. And what it's doing is just making that oil the most luscious, luscious thing. The chili flake adds a nice heat to it. The herbs round it out. Add ½ a red bell pepper. And just cook that in there until it softens up a bit. See how we're doing here. So one of the ways that you can easily tell if your peppers have softened up enough is if they're stretching out. They don't have to stretch into straight lines, but they can. Just kind of like how these guys are. And that is your cue to toss your spaghetti in with the infused oil. Take it off the heat once you get the spaghetti in there and just kind of gently fold. And you'll see all the goodness starting to coat each and every noodle. Oh, this is so tasty. It's a lovely foundation for the chicken. The bell peppers add just the right amount of color, just a touch of sweetness to it. And then once you have it all ready to go ahead and start plating it. Start with a nice pile of it in the middle of your plate. That's kind of rowdy stuff, isn't it? That's why spaghetti is fun. A little bit more. Build a nice little foundation. That might be a bit much on that plate. I'm going to steal a little bit from that one. Put it over there. There we go. Find a couple more red bell peppers. Put them in there. There we go. Then let's add the chicken. Go ahead and use a slotted spoon to scoop it out. And just place it right there on top. Don't worry about the onions and the sauce and whatnot. It's all, everything that you need is already on the chicken. Be a nice cook and pull out the toothpicks. Oh, there's one. Come back to that other one, it's a little hot yet. So is that one. All right, we'll try that again in a few minutes. And then let's plate this endive. So you can see I've got a couple plates of greens here. I'm favoring arugula. Any sort of green will do. Spinach, baby greens, romaine lettuce, whatever you like. I kind of plate them in a little bit of an X like this. Like that. And kind of drizzle the good pancetta, onion, orange juice, cider vinegar goodness over the top. Try to get every little bit of it. And then frame it in with the orange segments. I always like to start at the 4 points. And if you have more, you can always add a little bit more as you go. One bonus per each. I'm going to put it right on top of the endive. And then back over here to the chicken. Get that toothpick out now. Alright, well that one's not coming out, so I'm going to put that one on my side so that my sweetie gets this nice one with no toothpick in it. Top with a little grate of Parmesan cheese or Romano cheese. And then frame in with the garlic bread. And there you go, a delicious Italian-style feast for your next date night at home. Now pair this up with a nice creamy oaky Chardonnay or a nice light and refreshing Pinot Grigio. And call on your sweetie for some mangia. And ciao, apron. Honey, dinner time. Oh, hi there. Hi, more.
Yum.
Happy date night.
Yes. Another delicious one.
Oh yeah, this one's really good.
These restaurants really make this food.
I don't know. Hot Kitchen makes it all that good though.
It's absolutely delicious.
Oh, you're gonna like this one. And I won't be offended if you can't finish. It's one of those.
This is such a hot kitchen.
So thanks for joining me in my hot kitchen tonight. Have fun turning up the heat in your kitchen, and we'll see you next week. Night night. Pet the kitties.